It's my pleasure to introduce a good friend of mine, a Naismith Hall of Fame inductee, big-time writer, used to hoop and ball a little bit. He's a writer now with ESPN and Anscape, so we had to correct that. Thank you, Marc, for giving us that. My man, thank you for coming on. Hall of Fame, how does that feel? Congratulations. When you got that call, what was it like?
Oh man, like you know what? When I got the call, I believed it, Jimmy. But it was like it wasn't. But I needed them to say it in front of people. You know what I'm saying? So All-Star last year, Salt Lake City. I knew it, but they had to announce it, right? They announced me and Holly Roll at a press conference, and I'm like, okay, this is real now. You know, it's one thing to tell me on the phone. It's another thing to tell the world. And if you watch that video, I got, tried to had a little man juice, as my boy said, man juice, but to have grown up dreaming to be an NBA player like you were, not having that happen, and to somehow still make the Hall of Fame as a writer, and man, it's beautiful, man, and that's I don't know that there's anything bigger I could do in my career than doing that.
But here's the thing though. You mentioned the basketball part because you played it, and we all had the aspiration, dreams of, playing at the highest level, and some get there and some unfortunately don't. But you learn so many things during the progress. How did you transition from the basketball court, shooting jump shots, pounding the pavement, to the writing side of it? What drove you in that direction?
Jimmy, I saw a stat when I was in the 7th grade that less than 2% of all college basketball players make it to the NBA. And I was just a realistic kid. And so I actually went to a career day, and there was a guy from the Warriors there. He must have been dating one of my teachers. I don't know why this dude from the Warriors. He asked me, like, what do you want to do when you grow up? I said, shoot, I want to play for y'all. And he's like, yeah, okay. Well, if you can't, what do you want to do? I said, I don't know. And he said, well, if you can combine, and I say this to all kids, what you love most in life with what you do best in school, you could find a job you're happy with every day. And I was like, I could write. I love sports. If I can't play in NBA finals, why not be there somehow? And I was like, why not be a sports writer? So I actually decided in the 7th grade that I wanted to be a sports writer.
And that's awesome. Now, does that give you, now we talk about the thrill of the crowd and the excitement in the arena, kind of getting the goosebumps and, being able to perform. Writing and kind of putting your thoughts on paper, pen to pad, does that kind of provide and give you that same kind of excitement, enthusiasm, nervousness before you're about to, write a big article?
No. You know what, Jimmy, like you played in NBA, I played in college. There's a high that you get from playing, and I just played on a college level that I can't recreate. And I think you know what I'm talking about. There's this, that's the goosebump. That's the high, being on the court, competing. Like I can't recreate that. Now it's certainly a blessing to write about basketball for a living and being at these games. And, when I'm covering games and I know I got to write, like I know I have to write after the game tonight, you're kind of in like a mental thrive mode. Like the game gets you hyped and excited, and you have that energy that lasts hours after the game, and that it's that energy that actually helps me stay awake because these games are so late, and especially in the East Coast, and finish writing at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. So hopefully shortly after people wake up, they could read what I have to say on the game. And so that's but there's no high. If I could go back in time to play in one of my old games, I would pay a lot of money to do that. I don't think I really appreciated it as much as I should have. And if I could go back in your time and play one of your NBA games for you, I'd pay a lot of money for that as well.
No, but you know what, Marc? I think a lot of us really appreciate the road that you traveled. Remember, we were back in the day before you got with ESPN when I was covering some early Golden State 2016, maybe 17 championship runs, and we were talking about the future and where we would be. And speaking of which, you're in Boston right now. getting ready for Game 4. And when we were off here talking, I wanted to get into kind of the series itself, how you see it. What do you envision happening tonight? But first, kind of what's been the atmosphere? Well, you're in Dallas right now. I'm sorry, not in Boston, but you're in Dallas. After Game 3 now, that was a game that the Mavs and the fans thought that they could get. What's the atmosphere like coming out of the pressures yesterday, going into Game 4 tonight?
Well, I had breakfast with have you met Cynthia Marshall?
No, they're with the Mavericks.
Mavericks.
Yeah, no.
You need to meet her. And when you come out here, let me know because I want you to meet her. And she's like, we're going to make history. She told me that after breakfast. She's like, ain't nobody ever done it in the history of the league. We're going to make history. And then at the end of breakfast, she goes, well, I at least think you're going to be in Boston. You're going to have to go back to Boston at least. I'm like, all right, so you're tempering it a little bit. This is as they said at Mo Better Blues, this is the roughest of the roughest, man. For the Dallas Mavericks, it's something that nobody's ever done, having to try to win 4 in a row. And I think for them, they honestly got to take it one game at a time and see what happens. And then, Jimmy, you know how this goes. Within the first 5 minutes of the game, you're going to see how much pride the Mavericks have. You're gonna and there's a quick flight on American to Cancun from here, right? Like they could be there tomorrow afternoon, right?
Marc, the other 28 teams already been to Cancun. They got to go somewhere else. They can't go to Cancun if they lose this one.
Cabo.
But
Yeah,
listen, but coming off of that, you talk about the first 5 minutes, but in Game 2 and Game 3, the Mavs started off well. Can they?
No, but Jimmy, this is
can they sustain it though?
No. This is what I mean.
All right.
They weren't down like this before. I'm actually saying, do they care at this point?
Oh, I got you.
So in the first 5 minutes, you're gonna see how much they care. And that's what I mean about the vacation. Are they? You're like, look, I'm home now. Do I really want to fly to Boston and continue this? Like, we'll see how much pride the Mavericks have as a franchise. I expect Luka to fight, but he's like taking shots to play in these games, right? So that's tough. I expect Kyrie to fight. I expect Dallas to have the right pride, especially because they are at home, to try to fight through this. But look, man, I've gained a lot of respect for Joe Mazzulla and just his mental aspect, and I really believe he's going to have these guys ready to play. The fact that these Celtics have been there before, Drew Holiday has been there before. Closeout games are definitely the hardest games, and they're trying to do it on the road. But Jimmy, Dallas is just not as good. And if Boston is focused and they're playing the right way, I really could see this ending tonight.
Hey, Marc.
Regardless of what kind of effort Dallas puts out.
Hey, Marc, Chris Brockman. I'm a Celtics fan, but I remember your time with the Globe. And you were the first person to ask Paul Pierce a question after they closed it out in 2008. Can you just compare this team to the 2008 team? What are the similarities? What are the big differences?
Man, them 2008 dudes was crazy, man. These guys are choir boys compared to the 2008 team. KG was just the most intense, ferocious competitor I've ever seen in person. It was such a pleasure to watch him every game. Paul Pierce was extremely competitive. Ray Allen was just like super cool, one of perhaps the most beautiful jump shot. What Ken Griffey was to a bat swing, Ray Allen was to a jump shot. And so that team, to me, the difference is they're an older team. They're a vet team. Those guys hadn't been in the finals for the most part. Obviously, Cassell had, but they, knew that those were their last days, right? Like this is probably like their best chance. They weren't in their mid-20s like these Celtics 2 stars, but because those 2 Celtic stars have gone 2 years ago and they have failed, I do think that there's a sense of urgency. As somebody that, you were saying you're from Boston or a Celtics fan, like, this and they know this, like, until you win a championship in Boston, I don't care what your numbers are, you're just not going to be respected the same. You have to be in the fabric of Celtics lore to get in, to that company where you're mentioned alongside Russell and Bird and JoJo and, KG and Paul. Like, I think that if Boston wins tonight, two of the main people I'm watching is Tatum and Brown, to see if there's just an explosion of emotion. I don't think there's two NBA players in the league that have more pressure on them to win for their franchise than those two.
I agree.
As you know, like Boston and LA, it's a different type of pressure, but LeBron has won one for the Lakers. AD won one for the Lakers. But for these two guys, like, if they just break down and feel a release, I get it. Like, another guy to keep an eye on is Al Horford.
Yep.
Yeah.
The only player that has played in more playoff games than him and not one is Karl Malone in NBA history, and he's about 9 games shy. So I'll be keeping an eye on Al Horford as well, because he's now 38 years old, hitting 40, and at his time of his career, like, I think you start thinking like this is never going to happen. But because of what I just mentioned, I do expect the Celtics to be focused, to be ready. They play how they play, but I don't think there's going to be this, we're going to get to go back home no matter what, and we could just finish it off there. No, I really think they're going to have the right mental capacity to try to end things and then, go do their duck boat tour in a couple days.
It's also so funny, the 08 team, they played multiple game sevens throughout that playoff run, whereas, this team has only lost the 2 games.
No, like, I think if they win tonight, they'll be 70 and 80 and 20.
80 and 20, right.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredible. That 08 team, man, like, I remember it, and Jimmy's going to laugh about this. There's going to be a documentary that comes out at some point. Like, why did it take them 7 games to beat the Atlanta Hawks? Why did they lose all the games in Atlanta?
You got a story? Oh, something about it. Chicken wings is really good, I heard, in Atlanta. Man. That's what I heard.
Yeah.
I heard some specific
something about maybe going to the ballet. Something about going to the ballet at night, maybe. That might be part of it,
Yeah. T?
Hey, Marc, TJ here. Pleasure talking with you. Always been a fan of your takes and the way you look at the game. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I know the Celtics are up 3-0, and barring something that's never happened before, they're going to win that Larry O.B. So my question to you is, a sports talk question. How do you think history is going to remember this Celtics team, assuming that they do go ahead and raise banner number 18?
I think you got to ask that question in 5 years. Right. Going back to that 2018, there's nothing that made me not think that they were going to, not even repeat, but three-peat. I thought they were super special. And if you look at them the next season, and this might bring some pain to my man there that's a Celtics fan, they were actually better the next season.
Yep.
And then Kevin Garnett blew out his knee.
Mm-hmm.
Never the same. The Celtics were never the same after that.
True.
And then Perk got hurt in Game 6 in 2010.
Yeah. So, I mean, if Garnett never gets hurt, like, they are one of the scariest teams in NBA history. And so it's hard to answer that question not knowing what the future will hold. The different thing about this team is just so much younger. Like, your 2 stars aren't even in their late 20s yet. Like, so they have the ability to maybe do something special going forward. But what the NBA is telling you now is, like, there hasn't been any repeat champions for a while. Nothing is guaranteed. Yeah, I bet you 2 months ago there was nobody that would think that the Nuggets wouldn't not only win it, but probably even be in the finals, right?
Yeah,
like,
true.
You thought that was a given. You thought that was a given, probably, that Milwaukee would be back the next year and that they would win it, or Golden State would be back. It's just that the parity within this league right now is sensational. There's so many good teams, and to win a championship, you got to not only be great, you got to be lucky, and you got to be healthy. And other than Porzingis, the Celtics have had that, and that just shows you that it's a paramount amount of scoring and talent that they have on this roster. And you keep this team together, you fix a couple little pieces. Drew Holiday's going to be there too, and he's been sensational defensively. Porzingis back. No, I mean, I'm certainly think they'd be the favorites next year, but there's some other great teams in the entire NBA that, if healthy, can battle with them.
Marc, speaking of which, in regards to legacy, we were having this internal conversation inside about Jaylen Brown. Mm-hmm. If Celtics win, if Jaylen Brown is then presented with the Finals MVP, where does this move him in the needle in regards to players in the league? Because he made third team All NBA last year, didn't make anything this year. Where does this now push Jaylen Brown if these things were to happen, either tonight or during, the championship run?
Well, the one play that sticks out to me already is the steal of Luka in the dunk. Like, that to me was a reminder to everybody who wasn't paying attention to who he is. He is certainly often overshadowed because of Jayson Tatum. I actually think for both he and Jayson and Jaylen, that if they win this, then the world is going to be thinking about them in a different light for the rest of their lives. They're going to be Celtics icons. They're going to be looked at as the elite superstars in the league. They will get over the hump in terms of respect. You can't talk that they didn't do it. They always, fall shy anymore. They'll have done it. And then the thing is, both of them, Jaylen's on the Olympics too, right? Being on the Olympic team will certainly take things to another level. So I'm really excited for Jaylen. I was around him when he was at Cal. He's one of the most unique and smart guys in the league. Jimmy, you'll laugh at this. He invited me to do his interview with him at a Brazilian restaurant in Berkeley while he was wearing a soccer shirt. I think he had a Real Madrid shirt on or something like that. And he was telling me about how he was learning Spanish and how to play the guitar. And so, there
right
was
on
a worry
cue
at this time where they're like, he's too smart for the league. He has too many other interests. He went to Cal Berkeley for academic reasons, not for basketball reasons. It's a brilliant, brilliant guy, but I think he shows you you can't judge a book by its cover. He certainly comes to play every game. He's an underrated superstar in this league, and I'm with you, man. This vaults him to one of the elite players in the league, especially I think if he has a great game tonight, that more than likely he'll end up, if the Celtics win, being MVP of the finals.
And, in the last question and maybe thought, we in today's society want everything to happen now. You get the team together, you win the following year. That hasn't been the case with the Celtics with regards to winning a championship. They've been down the road of getting to a championship, Eastern Conference Finals, but haven't been able to cross over. How much of that did you see the level of maturity in this Boston team? Because when Dallas went on that run, in the third quarter, fourth quarter, maybe a year ago, this Celtics team wouldn't be able to recover, and they give that up. The level of maturity that you've seen with this Boston team over the years has gotten them to this point. Where do you see this team at right now from that perspective, the growth side of it?
Well, I think the first part of the growth came from being in the finals against the Warriors, but losing. I just remember seeing the pain in Jayson Tatum's face, talking to family in the hall outside of the locker room after the game. But then the next year to lose to the Miami Heat in the Game 7 was humbling, extremely humbling. And I think it showed them that nothing is guaranteed. It's not a given that you're going to be here every year. It's not a given that you'll be in the finals. And so I do think that that's given them a different perspective, a different sense of urgency. And then now you got a OG and Al Horford who's probably like, guys, this is probably maybe my last chance. Then you got another guy in Drew Holiday who is basically, a kind of a mental big brother there that explains to them like, hey, I've been a couple years removed from winning the championship too. So let's take this serious. So there's been a mental focus with them, with the Celtics, that I saw that I'm seeing now that I didn't see last year, that I didn't see the year before. You could make an argument that Celtics team may have been more talented than the Warriors but mentally the Warriors were just more experienced and in a better place than them and knew how to shut things down. And we'll see how truly sharp the Celtics are mentally tonight, because there's no question they are the better team. There's no question that the Mavs will likely fight them back, but they should end this tonight, and they should, get off the plane with some red R-back, Jimmy Jackson cigars and a hat, getting ready for their duck boat ride. I mean, they are the better team, and it's time to basically shut us all up about who they are. This is their time.
Nah, Marc, really appreciate the time. I know that the crowd is going to be crazy tonight in Dallas. Yeah. Enjoy my third city.
There's a lot of Boston people here, man, and there's more coming. Keep an eye on the crowd tonight.
Okay.
It's because when you're down 3-0, you might have faith, but let's see how faithful the MFL or whatever they call it over here, the MFFL is. Uh-huh. I don't want to see no death. I'm going to sell my seat to somebody, and I guarantee you tonight you're going to see a lot of green in the stands.
Right. All right, my man. Well, enjoy it. It's been a pleasure. Congrats on all the successes, man. Look forward to see what you got to say after Game 4.
All right. I'll see you at Summer League, right?
You got it.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.